Y'all, welcome to your next milestone, your next deliverable for project number 4. If you've been paying attention, you're following along, you know that project number 4 is really, we're repeating and honing in on the work that we've done from projects number 1 and 2 and injecting the feedback and the user perspective that we took over a few weeks for project number 3. And so think of this project number 4, as a way to hone your craft, hone those skills, push your work to the next level. And tonight, for this module, we're going to be doing that with the IA map. So let's go over the instructions for this assignment. So before we actually start our wireframes, again, very similar to what we did for project number 2, you're going to take a moment to think about the pages, the features, the content that you might want to include in your app design and how you might structure your navigation. You can start by sketching things out or organizing your sticky notes, drawing everything on a whiteboard if you have that. But perhaps also maybe consider just writing down and starting with writing down every single page that you would imagine to include in your app. Take a look at similar apps, those apps you included in your UI inspiration, maybe any apps that you heard from a competitor perspective or that were brought up in your user interviews, and see the types of pages that they have in their apps and marry that with your decisions on what you want to include in your final app for project number 4. Once you have that, you can organize those into the different contents and buckets and groups that you might want to include for this project. But I feel like that's always a great place to start. If you're kind of having a moment where you can't just think about, well, how am I going to lay this out? I always typically start with jotting everything down on sticky notes or just writing down in a Word doc every page that I can imagine as being a part of this app, and then organizing it then in Adobe XD or whatever IA mapping software that I'm using. For this assignment though, like we did for project number 2, you're going to be submitting your IA map as a polished deliverable coming out of Adobe XD there. So let's go over the instructions. So first off, like we said, think about the different types of features that you want to include, the different types of content that will be helpful to be included as a part of your app based on that inspiration you've gathered and also the feedback that you've received from your user. And so while in your final prototype, there's going to be a minimum of 10 full screens, and we'll go into why that number's up a little bit there. And once we get into project or the final milestone here, of wireframes and the ultimate prototype, but we're going to be dealing with smaller screen sizes and more specific actions, and so your screens won't be as detailed as maybe they were for the responsive web and for the apartment complex website. And so we'll do a minimum of 10 full screens in your final prototype. What screens you ultimately end up including will be up to you and the 3 features that you decide to include based on your user feedback. And so now as you lay that out in your IA map, just shoot for a minimum that 10, but the screens that you include are going to be up to you, up to the feedback that you got, up to your decisions on the application that you want to design. And remember, one of those features needs to be what was included in your in the project statement from project number 4. So if you've got a money transferring app, you need to be able to demonstrate the ability to connect an account. Perhaps that's a Facebook account or connecting your Facebook. Perhaps that's connecting a child's account, connecting you to a loved one you want to transfer money to. If you chose a transportation app, which I'm not sure anybody did, you want to demonstrate the ability to search nearby. For travel and tourism app, you want to demonstrate the ability to build a travel plan or build maybe an itinerary or a to-do list within that travel plan, essentially building a plan within that travel app example. And then for the entertainment app, you want to demonstrate the ability to add content to your favorites. So again, the pages you ultimately end up including, a minimum of 10, are up to you. 2 of the 3 features are up to you also. One of them should be what was included in your project number 4 statement. Now, as you lay out your IA map, what would be helpful to me, maybe helpful to your classmates, is to highlight those different features within the IA map. Maybe that's a little star next to it. Maybe it's highlighted with a different color in your legend to highlight, when the user would be able to fulfill that feature or how they would demonstrate the ability to fulfill that feature. So all app genres should demonstrate then also the ability to log in or create an account. So that's a very important step to think about. There are some things you might want to include on there. Again, take a look at examples on your phone. Take a look at the UI inspiration that you came up with. Take a look at the competitors maybe that your users included in some of your feedback. And so what types of information, actions might be included on those login screens. Definitely include what you feel like is a part of that in your IA map here also. So your IA map, like in project number 2, must include a legend with the content, the actions, pages that are going to be used in your diagram. It should be laid out in Adobe XD. And your draft of that, your submission, should be included in your groups there with 200 to 300 words explaining your thinking behind your IA map for your app and some of the decisions that you made based on that user feedback, based on the information that you got from your user and the features that you plan to include. So that's post number 1. Post number 2, due on Sunday at 11:59 p.m. That's going to be the peer evaluation, the peer feedback. You guys are doing a great job of that. One thing I would encourage you to do with the peer feedback is focus less on critiquing the actual design, the fonts, the color, and imagine yourself clicking or tapping and navigating through the actual app. Do those pages make sense? Are there any pages or subsets of pages that you feel like should be included to create more depth or could be included? So think more about the actual user flow, the actual experience of the IA map, more so than the design, the fonts, the colors. And I'll be looking to make sure y'all are focusing on that in your actual feedback to get some points here for your peer review. So again, hopefully this was helpful to see some of the work that your peers did, provide a little extra context of what to think about for your IA map for your application. Again, your best friend is going to be going through and looking at those UI examples that you've included inside of your mood board, and then also what competitors or what apps are also in the marketplace that maybe were mentioned on your call, on your interview, in the feedback that you gathered. So look at those apps, see how they handle certain pages, see what type of navigation they include, and maybe take that for inspiration to begin building out your IA map. But looking forward to this and seeing what y'all do for this. I've included a couple extra examples, like I said, of a great case study of kind of all the things that we're doing as a part of this class, really laid out in a great case study that I came across just this past week. And then also some maybe alternative examples of IA maps specific to native applications here. So again, hopefully this is helpful. Looking forward to seeing y'all's IA maps.